Do you feel as if you have to call the football games differently for an American audience as you would for an English one?
Yes and no. Does that answer your question? Not quite, does it? My great mentor in this business, sadly not with us anymore, was a boxing commentator, the late great Reg Guttridge. And his overriding message to me is that the power of communication is to recognise your audience and to be inclusive, not to exclude anybody. So to try to welcome everybody in, to show a warmth and to show an appreciation, and not to be the teacher at the front of that terrible mathematics class that we've all been in our childhood, where we're about 30 minutes into the class and it's all just flown over our heads and we didn't understand a word of it. So you have to recognise that the audience in the USA is, maybe 4,000 miles and a few time zones away, and that this isn't one of the major sports on the continent. But most of the people who invest in watching football on NBC SN have an interest which goes beyond just a kind of a quizzical scratching of an itch to see what this thing's all about. They actually do follow the English game. They are emotionally involved in the race for the Premier League title. They are consuming other media around NBC SN to follow that race. And so, in many senses, they are more committed than the average football fan in the UK. And so I think it's important in recognising and identifying your audience to recognise that it's actually more difficult to be a fan of the Premier League on the other side of the pond than it is on our side of the pond. So this is a very committed audience. And so I think you have to show them the recognition that they are as educated probably as any English football fan in what they are as media consumers taking in. And so the message from Pierre Musso, who is the head of NBC SN's football output, has always been commentate it as if you were at home. If there is a specific British phrase which halfway through you maybe think maybe they don't use that phrase in the USA, then maybe add on the end of that an equivalent phrase which is more generic, more global. But I don't go out of my way to say locker room or field. It is the dressing room, it is the pitch, and that is part of the culture of British football, which people are getting up at ungodly hours on the West Coast in order to watch. And my mind goes back many years to the years of Riggins and Theismann and of Redskins Cowboys, when I first became hooked on NFL. And to this day, if anybody asks me who my favourite commentator, my favourite announcer is, I always say the late Pat Summerall, because listening to Summerall and Madden in unison, and I'm very much the Summerall and not the Madden, and listening to them in unison back then was part of the authenticity, part of the excitement of watching this new sport in my perception. And so I think that even newcomers to English Premier League want it to be told as it is, which is very much the message that I've been given from NBC SN, to portray English football